Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra Part 1. Ascendant, Pisces, Revati Nakshatra. Ravindra's Pisces ascendant reveals a personality rooted in emotional perception, spiritual depth, and inner gentleness. Pisces is a mutable water sign ruled by Jupiter, naturally inclined toward intuition, imagination, and a deep desire to merge with something greater than the self. People with this ascendant often experience the world more through feelings and impressions than through fixed logic or identity. They are emotionally open, fluid, and subtly tuned to the undercurrents of life. What makes Ravindra's ascendant especially nuanced is its placement in Revati Nakshatra, ruled by Mercury. Revati lends a tone of refinement, empathy, and gentle maturity to his Piscean nature. It's a nakshatra associated with guiding others, offering nourishment and bringing things to completion, spiritually, emotionally, or karmically. Revati enhances the already compassionate nature of Pisces, but tempers its emotional expansiveness with clarity, discernment, and a sense of sacred responsibility. This combination activates the Mystic Archetype in its most graceful form. Ravindra is wired for depth, not in a dramatic or disruptive sense, but in a deeply personal, almost sacred way. His identity is less about asserting himself and more about flowing with the experiences life brings. He may naturally gravitate towards subtle fields of inquiry, healing, spiritual practice, poetry, symbolism, or emotional caregiving. He is not here to dominate space. He is here to hold it, to listen more than speak, and to offer a kind of healing simply through presence. Psychologically, this ascendant reflects a soul with a built-in compass for meaning. Ravindra likely feels a strong pull toward the unseen aspects of life, dreams, emotion, intuition, and may often need time alone to recharge or reflect. He is sensitive to others' pain, often absorbing more than he shows, and has a gift for recognizing emotional truths that others miss. At times, the challenge with this ascendant lies in boundary clarity. With such open emotional borders, Ravindra may occasionally lose himself in others' needs or ideals. Yet the strength of Revati is that it ultimately teaches protection, not through walls, but through inner maturity and spiritual clarity. In his highest expression, Ravindra becomes a quiet guide, a presence that uplifts not by controlling, but by simply being. His identity is shaped not by ego, but by alignment, with compassion, grace, and the silent knowing that he is part of something deeper. Through the mystic, he walks not ahead or behind, but gently alongside the unfolding path of life. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra Part 2. First house, personality, identity, expression, and embodied self. Venus, Revati, Mercury, Uttara Bhadrapada, and Ketu, Purva Bhadrapada, and Pisces. Venus rules the 3rd and 8th houses, Mercury rules the 4th and 7th houses, Ketu rules the 9th house, Scorpio. Ravindra's first house, his visible personality, self-concept, and approach to life, is deeply textured, containing Venus, Mercury, and Ketu in Pisces. This cluster suggests a soft-spoken, refined, and introspective outer expression. The first house is not just how others see us, it's how we carry our energy into the world. For Ravindra, that energy is complex, emotionally intelligent, and steeped in internal reflection. Venus in Revati brings forward the creator archetype. This gives his personality a graceful, artistic, and emotionally harmonizing quality. He is someone who carries himself with subtle elegance, often expressing a fondness for aesthetics, music, or anything that soothes or beautifies. Venus also ties into his 3rd and 8th houses, so his communication and emotional depth are integral to how he presents himself. Others may be drawn to his softness, creativity, and understated charm. Mercury in Uttara Bhadrapada contributes the strategist archetype. This is Mercury at its most reflective and emotionally perceptive, giving Ravindra a highly nuanced thought process and a careful, wise way of speaking and analyzing the world. He's likely skilled at sensing what's not being said, processing experiences internally before responding, and finding emotionally resonant language to describe subtle states. Because Mercury rules his 4th and 7th houses, this perceptiveness is deeply tied to how he nurtures 4th and relates 7th, giving him a naturally thoughtful presence in one-on-one interactions. Ketu in Purva Bhadrapada activates the mystic archetype. This intensifies the inner detachment already present in Pisces, creating a soul that appears to be here, but is partly tethered to somewhere else. Ketu brings spiritual detachment, introspection, and a kind of quiet renunciation. In the first house, it often suggests someone who does not over-identify with ego, body, or status. He may come across as wise beyond his years, somewhat elusive, or unusually spiritually mature, even without trying. Together, these three archetypes, the creator, strategist, and mystic, shape a first house that is quietly powerful. Ravindra doesn't project authority or dominance. Instead, he influences through depth, compassion, and subtle refinement. His personality is like water, fluid, absorbing, reflective, but with undercurrents of clarity, logic, and spiritual knowing. Psychologically, this configuration reflects a person who may take time to find firm self-definition. Early in life, he may have struggled with feeling different or misunderstood, especially if expected to present with confidence in loud or competitive environments. Over time, however, his personality becomes a vessel for insight, offering others quiet validation, emotional resonance, and graceful presence. In his highest expression, Ravindra's first house becomes a sanctuary of soft strength. Through the creator, he brings beauty and healing. Through the strategist, he brings clarity and consideration. Through the mystic, he brings soul and detachment from superficiality. He doesn't just express personality, he embodies a living bridge between intuition, intellect, and transcendence. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra Part 3. Second house, self-worth, speech, and personal values, Sun in Aries, Ashwini Nakshatra. Sun rules the sixth house, Leo. The second house in Ravindra's chart reveals how he relates to his voice, personal values, and inner sense of security. With the Sun placed here in Aries, this zone becomes charged with independence, willpower, and a drive to define worth through self-assertion. The second house governs more than material possessions. It reflects what we believe we're worth and how confidently we speak that worth into the world. The Sun in Aries brings the executor archetype into Ravindra's relationship with resources and self-esteem. He is likely to derive confidence from productivity, courage, and action. His voice may be firm, clear, and energetic. He doesn't hesitate to speak up when something matters. But this isn't just a reactive fire, it's purposeful. Aries gives him the instinct to protect his values and to take charge of building the life he envisions, especially when it comes to financial independence or moral clarity. Ashwini Nakshatra, ruled by Ketu, adds both swiftness and subtle spiritual coloration to this otherwise bold placement. Ashwini's symbolism of healing, speed, and new beginnings suggests that Ravindra's expression of self-worth is tied to a deeper impulse, to initiate, to inspire, and to set things in motion, not just for himself, but for others. He may have a natural instinct for motivating, activating, or even healing through speech and presence. Ashwini doesn't dwell, it moves, and so does Ravindra's value system, always in motion, testing its own boundaries, recalibrating as life unfolds. Since the Sun rules his sixth house, themes of service, duty, and refinement are woven into this configuration. Ravindra may feel most self-assured when he's actively solving problems, being of service, or maintaining integrity in daily responsibilities. This adds a work ethic to his sense of worth. He values not just intention, but follow-through. The more he brings order, precision, or healing to the world around him, the more grounded he feels in his own value. Psychologically, the second house Sun can manifest as someone who develops confidence over time through action. Ravindra may need to take initiative in voicing his needs or standing up for what he believes, especially early in life, when he may have struggled to reconcile inner conviction with outward expression. Yet as he grows, he likely becomes known for his ability to speak with clarity, strength, and direction, someone others turn to when decisive insight is needed. In his highest expression, Ravindra becomes a self-motivated guide, living his values, expressing truth without hesitation, and using his energy to activate change. Through the executor archetype, he doesn't just know what he's worth, he embodies it through every word, choice, and step forward. His voice is not just personal, it becomes a force that awakens action in those around him. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra Part 4. Seventh house, relationships, mirroring, and relational karma. Rahu in Virgo, Uttara Falguni Nakshatra. Rahu co-rules the 12th house, Aquarius. The seventh house governs close partnerships, marriage, and the psychological mirrors we encounter through one-on-one relationships. For Ravindra, this space is influenced by Rahu in Virgo, which brings an intense karmic charge to relationships, both in desire and in discomfort. Rahu represents obsession, hunger, and growth through imbalance. In Virgo, Rahu becomes focused on precision, improvement, and control, especially within the relational field. This placement awakens the maverick archetype in the realm of relationships. Ravindra may feel an intense pull toward partnerships that offer learning, contrast, or something foreign to his default emotional pattern. He is likely to be drawn to people who seem structured, competent, or analytical, those who carry the clarity he feels compelled to integrate. Yet, over time, these relationships also teach him that perfection in partnership is a mirage. Rahu here pushes him to evolve past unrealistic expectations and to understand that real connection requires humility and adaptability. Uttara Falguni Nakshatra, ruled by the sun, adds a sense of maturity and sacred responsibility to this dynamic. It softens Rahu's instability by grounding it in loyalty and commitment. Ravindra may feel that relationships are not just romantic, they are contracts of the soul. He likely seeks a partner who not only shares life, but also shares in values, ethics, and long-term vision. There may be an inner conflict between wanting freedom and craving stability, but this nakshatra teaches that sustainable love is built, not stumbled upon. Rahu, as co-ruler of the 12th house, links his relationships with themes of surrender, karmic unraveling, and subconscious patterns. He may find that deep partnerships trigger spiritual lessons or unresolved emotional threads, sometimes through loss, sometimes through awakening. His relational journey is not linear. It is meant to unravel illusion and bring him face to face with the parts of himself he hides or disowns. Psychologically, this is someone who experiences relationship as transformation. Ravindra's partnerships may feel intense, fated, or strangely magnetic, especially early in life. There may be a tendency to idealize others or to seek control when emotional vulnerability becomes uncomfortable. But as he matures, the maverick within him learns to co-create relationships that allow room for imperfection, evolution, and shared truth. In everyday life, Ravindra may take on roles of teacher or analyst within relationships, offering insights, helping others grow, but needing to be mindful of not overcorrecting or becoming overly critical. When he allows relationships to shape him as much as he shapes them, profound intimacy and mutual healing can occur. At his highest expression, Ravindra becomes a relational alchemist, using relationships not just for love or companionship, but as vehicles for spiritual refinement. Through the maverick archetype, he learns to balance independence with devotion, analysis with surrender, and passion with purpose. His seventh house isn't about finding the perfect other. It's about becoming whole through the sacred imperfections of partnership. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra, Part 5. Vocation, Public Identity and Contribution to Society. Saturn in Sagittarius, Purva Ashada Nakshatra. Jupiter in Sagittarius, Mula Nakshatra. Saturn rules the 11th and 12th houses. Jupiter rules the 1st and 10th houses. Ravindra's 10th house, the domain of career, legacy, and social responsibility, is powerfully activated by the presence of both Saturn and Jupiter in Sagittarius. This pairing forms a rare and karmically significant alignment in the house of vocation, suggesting that his public life is not just about what he achieves. It's about how he upholds and transmits wisdom, responsibility, and ethical structure into the world. With Jupiter as the ruler of both his ascendant, 1st and 10th house, and placed in Mula Nakshatra, Ravindra's life path and career are tightly woven into one another. Jupiter here signals the activation of the visionary archetype. He is designed to lead through knowledge, to expand systems of belief, and to offer guidance rooted in truth. But Mula, ruled by Ketu, does not tolerate illusion. This is not a comfortable Jupiter. It is a transformational one. Ravindra's career path may include deep uprooting, times when he must let go of established norms or social attachments in order to realign with higher truth. His leadership is uncompromising when it comes to principle. He doesn't follow trends. He seeks to reveal what's authentic, even if that requires tearing down what is outdated or false. Conjunct this is Saturn in Purva Ashada, which introduces the architect archetype into the same field. Saturn brings structure, discipline, and a long-game approach to his social contribution. While Jupiter inspires, Saturn builds, and in Purva Ashada, ruled by Venus, Saturn softens into a more constructive, justice-oriented form. Ravindra is not just laying foundations for his own success, he's building systems or frameworks that will outlast him. He may take time to rise professionally, but his authority, once earned, is enduring. He likely takes on responsibility not as a burden, but as a calling, especially in domains connected to teaching, ethics, legal systems, spiritual education, or social reform. Together, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction fuses vision with structure. Ravindra is here to contribute not by choosing between inspiration and realism, but by marrying the two. He sees what must change, and he also understands how to change it. One brick, one belief, one principle at a time. He may be known in his professional life as someone who speaks with moral clarity, stands firm in crises, and leads with inner alignment rather than outer ambition. Psychologically, this pairing makes his public identity feel weighty. Ravindra likely holds himself to high standards, perhaps even to the point of quiet pressure or self-doubt. His growth involves learning to trust the unfolding of his path, to recognize that his career is a vessel for karma, meaning, and mastery, not just productivity or validation. At his highest expression, Ravindra's 10th house becomes a cathedral of purpose. Through the visionary, he ensures his work is guided by wisdom and conscience. Through the architect, he ensures it is built to last, not just to impress. His contribution is not flashy, but it is foundational. He leads not to be followed, but to leave behind a map others can build from. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra Part 6. 11th house, community, aspirations, and collective contribution. Moon in Capricorn, Dhanishta Nakshatra. Moon rules the 5th house, Cancer. Ravindra's 11th house, governing his long-term goals, friendships, social networks, and relationship with the collective, is occupied by the moon in Capricorn, suggesting a deep emotional investment in purposeful contribution, but one that is often expressed through restraint, structure, and quiet reliability. The 11th house is the realm of social vision, and the moon here does not crave popularity. It seeks meaningful alignment with people and goals that are emotionally steady and ethically consistent. The moon in this placement activates the guardian archetype in collective environments. Ravindra carries a protective, stabilizing emotional energy into the groups and circles he belongs to. He is someone who supports the whole not by spotlighting himself, but by holding space, maintaining order, and offering consistent emotional presence. This is not a person who gets swept up in social excitement. He moves through communities with maturity and purpose, likely becoming a stabilizing figure in long-term alliances. Dhanishta Nakshatra, ruled by Mars, adds a rhythmic, success-oriented, and performance-conscious quality to this emotional tone. Dhanishta's symbolism of the drum suggests Ravindra brings a subtle pulse to group settings, someone who knows when to step forward, when to fall back, and how to coordinate emotional or social movement with grace and precision. He may be emotionally sensitive to timing in groups, sensing when momentum is building or when cohesion is starting to fray. Because the moon rules his 5th house, creativity, intelligence, romance, children, his emotional fulfillment is tied to how he contributes and connects in group contexts. He may find joy not in personal accolades, but in seeing a group vision come to life, especially when he has helped guide or hold the emotional rhythm of the journey. His presence is likely valued in teams, especially during moments that require calm, consistency, or empathetic strategy. Psychologically, this placement reflects someone who feels through structure. Ravindra likely needs emotional predictability in his social life and may withdraw from alliances that feel chaotic, emotionally immature, or directionless. Yet within purposeful, ethically grounded groups, he thrives, often playing the quiet counselor, the emotionally grounded mentor, or the one others lean on in periods of uncertainty. At times, he may suppress his emotional needs in group dynamics, feeling responsible for keeping everything together. His challenge is to learn how to receive support in community, not just give it. In his highest expression, Ravindra becomes a social steward, someone who brings emotional maturity, rhythmic guidance, and integrity to the spaces he shares. Through the guardian archetype, he helps shape collective goals, not just through action, but through consistent emotional leadership. He doesn't need the loudest voice. He becomes the pulse that holds the group in sync. Psychology Archetypes with Astrology, Case Study, Ravindra, Part 7. 12th House, Inner Surrender, Isolation, and Spiritual Dissolution. Mars in Aquarius, Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Mars rules the 2nd and 9th houses, Aries and Scorpio. Ravindra's 12th house, the domain of solitude, karmic unraveling, hidden drives, and spiritual transcendence, hosts Mars in Aquarius, a placement that turns active energy inward and filters his willpower through emotional complexity and existential inquiry. The 12th is not a house of obvious action, yet Mars here becomes a quiet engine of inner movement, a drive towards psychological freedom, subtle mastery, and karmic clarity. This placement activates the executor archetype, but in a deeply internalized and spiritually tempered form. Ravindra is likely someone who experiences intense inner restlessness that is not always visible on the outside. He is motivated by something beyond material goals, a need to act on behalf of invisible systems, spiritual laws, emotional healing, or collective liberation. Mars in Aquarius gives him a progressive, sometimes radical mental edge. Yet in the 12th house, this edge sharpens through introspection, spiritual discipline, and moments of seclusion. Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, ruled by Jupiter, brings a metaphysical flame to this Mars. It is a nakshatra of fierce inner devotion, spiritual transformation, and deep questioning of reality's foundations. Mars here doesn't fight for ego, it fights for liberation. Ravindra may feel drawn to causes or disciplines that demand internal strength, meditation, energy healing, mystical study, or working with populations that exist on the margins of society. The drive of Mars becomes devotional, even sacrificial, but always powerful beneath the surface. Since Mars rules both his 2nd house, values, self-worth, speech, and 9th house, truth, belief systems, higher purpose, this 12th house placement ties his spiritual or hidden actions to his ethical voice and life philosophy. He may be someone who keeps much of his passion private, but whose inner battles deeply influence what he values, how he expresses himself, and how he relates to faith, morality, and freedom. Psychologically, this can manifest as a deep well of unspoken energy. Ravindra may process anger, desire, or frustration internally, especially if he has not yet found spiritual or symbolic outlets for expression. At times, this could result in mental exhaustion, spiritual pressure, or the urge to escape. Yet when consciously integrated, this Mars becomes a disciplined warrior of the unseen, a protector of soul space, both his own and others. He may also exhibit a natural affinity for solitary work or inner retreats, doing his most important reflection away from noise, society, or even his own thoughts. His karmic strength lies in acting with alignment, especially when no one is watching. At its highest expression, Ravindra's 12th house becomes a sacred forge, where the executor archetype burns through illusion, distraction, and attachment. He becomes an inner activist, someone who clears karmic space not just through insight, but through action, rituals, routines, boundaries, and a fiercely private commitment to his own evolution. His spiritual strength isn't ceremonial, it's lived, earned, and quietly transformative.